It's time for today's face-off on Fox Soul. Challengers Quan LX and Big Angry Adams ready to go blow by blow on those hot topics. Face-off on Fox Soul starts right now.
Everything, drop it. Come on. Don't take no video. Step on the way. On the way.
Holy 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 oh my god. Yo, I was just on this plane. Oh my god. Yo, I was just on this plane. Holy oh! Oh! Oh no 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 no!
Oh, you're seeing this
In this round, here's Charles Big Angry Adams.
So, Quanell, what we just saw was two viral videos of the Delta. Well, it's actually a regional carrier that's a subsidiary of Delta. I think the name's Endeavor. Plane crashing during a landing in Toronto. We haven't heard a lot about the why. As you can see, runway frozen, Canada very cold. It appears that the plane came down either too fast or too hard, hit the ground, rolled over. Terrifying stuff, right? The vantage from the passenger crawling out of the wreckage, yeah, I can't even imagine, right? What I've read is that people were hanging, dangling, flipped over like bats hanging off a roof. You had 8 people seriously injured, I think 3 critically. You have to imagine some of those people were not seat belted. This really makes an argument to keep your seat belt on while you're flying in a plane. But we have seen the media, right? Both the mainstream media and the conservative media and social media alight with 2 arguments. One argument is Trump firing people caused this. The layoffs at the FAA, the Federal Aviation, has led to these horrible spate of plane crashes. We had the one early in the month in Alaska where I think 10 people died. We had 67 people die when the military helicopter crashed with an American airline in D.C. Terrifying stuff, and there seems to be more of them. There's also been a lot of private carriers. I think we've seen 2 or 3 crash. It has been a bad time for being someone that flies. It's bad stuff. But to blame Trump and his layoff of probationary employees and his offer to give buyouts to federal employees seems to be just more conjured Trump derangement syndrome. Hey, we've got to blame Trump for everything. It does not seem like he has been at the stick long enough, to borrow aviation jargon, to be responsible for these. On the flip side, we have seen conservatives, Republicans, Trumpers, blame DEI, right? If you go to Delta's Twitter page, their pinned tweet is about, women doing everything, right? And so what Trumper and conservatives have done is they've decided that DEI is to blame. And it was exacerbated by the fact that it looks like one of the military pilots, and possibly the one flying the plane when you had a helicopter collide with an American airline, it appears the military helicopter was to blame, was a relatively inexperienced female pilot who also was somehow also a staffer at the Biden administration. I think we can all agree that the people, we shouldn't have anything but merit deciding, well, all reasonable people, that it only should be merit deciding who's flying planes. Whoever the best person flying the plane, who passes the test and does all that. And you've seen that. You've seen a fired pilot get his job back and then have a hard, right here in Houston, you had a hard landing by a pilot that was fired, allegedly, and then rehired because of a DEI program. And maybe that's a good argument. but I think it's assuming a lot for people to say, hey, it's DEI. DEI caused this. I think that's just racist, screaming racism. I'm taking this water you stole from me.
As a black man, I could care less about DEI, diversity, equality, inclusion, because America has never ever desired, put a law into place that she followed to uplift and involve black people on a mass level for diversity, equity, or inclusion.
Why do you lie
And
all
so
the time?
we as black people have to understand that DEI benefited white females, it benefited members of the Arab community, Indian community, and Asian community much more than ever benefited black men and black females in particular. So we should not waste our energy worrying about DEI. That's not for us. We need something much better than that for black people. But I'm gonna say this to you, Charles. Now for the last 3 weeks, we've been watching strange planes just fall out the sky. We've been watching crash after crash now.
Well, we had UFOs falling out of the sky.
No, but Charles, we see a military helicopter fly head on into a big jumbo jet airplane. It didn't try to dive. It didn't try to turn away. It looked like it aimed directly for it. But all of a sudden now that once Trump becomes president, these planes are falling out the sky, flipping over on the runway, hard landings in Houston, plane crashes in the lake and in the water with helicopters. And all of a sudden, it's Trump, 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 Trump. But all of these people were in place way before Trump ever took the White House. But why these crashes now? Because I believe that they knew, many of those in the government knew that they were about to be cut through Elon's Musk investigations and cutbacks.
So you think these are purposeful crashes?
Listen to me. I believe that there's an element in the United States government who are so afraid that their jobs are going to be lost and cut that they may start to internally sabotage government agencies to make it look like Donald Trump is crazy, and if he's allowed to continue doing what he's doing with Elon Musk, the American safety and American way of life is in danger. I think they're going to do it on purpose, some of them, certainly not all, and guess what? We have the proof to back up that some within the government who did not like Trump in the first administration actively worked in acts of treason against him. Even a general sit there and said that if Trump gave him the order to carry out a military action, that he would not do it. That's an act of treason. So why would we think anything different now? Also, let me say this. I believe that these are distractions. I believe that something is about to go down in America, and we're being prepped to look at the distractions and not pay attention to what's really about to happen in this country. There's so much craziness and hate about Donald Trump. I think that they're willing to allow a dreadful act to take place in this country to put the blame at its doorstep.
You know, I keep waiting for you to have that Mission Impossible moment where you reach up and you pull off a mask and you're just Alex Jones sitting there. That is absolute. I mean, you started crazy and you finished crazy. Firstly, DEI has been an overwhelming benefit to some people. They would argue unfair.
Not black folks.
To African American
No,
people.
do your research.
In the academic setting.
No.
Affirmative action has
That's
overwhelmingly
absolutely
been
lie.
in black
Do your
Americans for the
research.
last decades. Now, don't get me
I will
wrong.
bring the documents.
Don't get me wrong. There are unscrupulous people like Senator Elizabeth Warren who pretended to be a Native American to get all
Pocahontas.
kind of jobs. But
She said she was Indian, Pocahontas,
but the
and didn't have one damn drop of Indian blood.
The suggestion that black people haven't benefited from DEI.
The masses of black people
detriment
never benefited from affirmative
to
action,
the
never
detriment
benefited from
of
DEI
qualified
programs. No, we did
white
not.
males and white females is incredibly dishonest. But let's
But
move
what
on.
they did,
Let's move on.
but they added gays to minorities now. Arabs,
Well, you don't think-
Asians,
wait,
Indians,
you don't think-
Latinos.
you don't think the LGBT
So
community
all
was
of those-
oppressed for years?
But you're missing the point. The LGBT's community oppression does not equal black oppression in America.
Okay.
You know why? Because, see, as a member of the LGBT community, they can hide their sexuality. They can keep it secret like many do. But black men and women, we can't hide who we are. Ain't no keeping it secret.
Affirmative
and so
action
I believe
has
other
been
groups
in place.
have benefited from what we
Aggressive
fought
affirmative
for.
action has been in place in America for black
And
Americans.
we fought for it.
For
But we
5
didn't
decades.
benefit from it.
5 decades.
And we never benefited
a
from it.
tremendous number of. But I think it's unfair to blame these crashes on it But equally, let's get back to the crashes.
I think some of it's internal sabotage.
I think this
telling you.
internal sabotage narrative, there's been no evidence of that. That is
Are you sitting here saying to me that there's no evidence that there was internal sabotage deliberately during this first administration?
Well, let's talk about
during this first administration.
No, hold on.
Are you telling me that FBI agents did not lead a secret campaign to undermine that man, discredit that man? Are you telling me that FBI agents did not go to social media platforms and threaten them to put the story of Hunter Biden, bury it, don't report it?
I absolutely
That's a conspiracy
agree.
At the highest levels of the government.
I absolutely agree that, in fact, the Biden administration in the last 6 months, there was evidence that they were squandering money to prevent that capital from being used by Trump.
So don't tell me ain't no damn government conspiracy to sabotage.
But it's very different, right, than saying they're intentionally crashing planes, right? And there's no evidence.
You don't think it's strange why this last plane comes and crashes on the landing, flips all the way over upside down,
right,
and nobody dies?
Okay, it's called, it was.
I know God is good. I know God is great, and I know nobody can touch His mercy.
Watch the video.
But that is a setup, man.
No, it's not.
I thank God those people survived, but all of them survived after being flipped over and crashed. Charles, there's something internally going on, and the American people are being misled.
The hull of the plane did not break in half. Most people were seatbelted. There was no way to make if you
there was an explosion on the plane.
It flipped over.
When it landed, there was an explosion.
Right, one of the engines
and then it flipped over, and nobody died.
Okay, it was frozen.
This is some internal sabotage.
It was frozen, and it was poor flight. But just like the just like the DC collision, you had what appears to be an underexperienced pilot. I don't think the fact that it's a female pilot should play in the math. So you want us to believe that
military fighter pilot couldn't see that big old ass jet in front of her face?
Well, that's the thing.
And didn't try to dive, didn't try to turn,
for some unknown
just went
reason,
straight into the plane. You want the American people to buy that lie?
Yes, I don't think there was some intentional thing to crash a plane full of children, especially young Olympians, and kill people. I think it was.
Governments kill planes full of children all the time.
Okay, I don't disagree.
Ask Russia.
I don't think there's any.
Ask Libya for what they took responsibility for.
Russia likes to shoot down passenger planes, but I don't think America is evil like the Putin administration is evil.
Wait a minute. You don't think the American government can be that evil?
I didn't think they had the capability to be that evil.
Did not the committee
I don't think
put in place by Donald Trump just last week admit that there was 2 shooters in the JFK assassination?
Well, they admitted there was speculation.
I'm sick. No. You gonna sit here and tell me that the American government would not do these things, and they just admitted that there was 2 shooters in the Kennedy assassination.
I would like to say,
and for 6 generations, they've lied to the American people.
That this Quanell is my favorite Quanell.
Wow. I'm giving you facts.
Conspiracy theory Quanell, I think is great. But I do not think Trump is to blame for this rash of accidents, and I think all the news articles are saying he's firing people he causes are liars. I do not think that DEI is to blame, although I don't think we should have DEI when we're hiring pilots. They should just be the most qualified people.
To go down in
but
America,
I also don't think it was an actual internal intentional government sabotage.
They hate that man enough to do exactly that.
In Iraq is facing deportation. He was detained by ICE while running errands for his family.
His wife says that he's been a legal resident in the U.S. for decades, but he does have a criminal record from an incident that happened more than 10 years ago. Fox 10's Kenzie Beach spoke with his wife tonight, and she works with legislators. She is working with them to bring him back home. Kenzie.
Yeah, John, Christina, Marlon Paris, he established a home, started a family, and even started a business in Arizona. He thought he was doing everything right to live here legally. As you mentioned, it was about a decade ago that he served prison time for a drug-related felony nonviolent charge. And since then, he served his time. He turned his life around. He even has a letter from federal agencies stating he would not be deported, but now he's spent the last 3 weeks detained.
For you to even serve a country that you are not truly a native of, I feel like that alone is so selfless.
A father, husband, and U.S. combat veteran, Marlon Paris, a Trinidad and Tobago native, was issued a green card in 1997 and has successfully renewed it every 10 years.
Like, our life has literally been flipped upside down.
On January 22nd, Marlon was detained by ICE agents blocks away from the family's Levine home.
For ICE agents to come out of nowhere, and now he is detained for almost a month.
In this round, here's Quanell X.
Charles, we just watched a clip that's very interesting. A former United States serviceman who fought and served on foreign battlefields, fighting to keep America safe, fighting for American interests abroad, comes home now as a veteran of our armed forces, made the ultimate sacrifice to serve. He catches a criminal case, he does a little jail time on it, and when he comes out, he gets his green card renewed, and ICE even stated, and Department of Homeland Security even stated, they had no interest in deporting him. His case was not of interest to them. Now we learn he's been detained for over 30 days by ICE agents because of his immigration status. It is a slap in the face to any immigrant that put on the American uniform, wearing the American flag, and fought on foreign battlefields, some coming back crippled, coming back mentally and psychologically wounded, and paid the ultimate price to only come back to America and be told, for infraction of the law, you now are deported, no longer an American citizen. After the department renewed his green card after coming home from prison, I believe that once you serve in the armed forces of this nation, you should automatically be granted United States citizenship. It's a mockery to tell men and women that are immigrants to put on a uniform and go fight and die for America, but when you come back, we still might deport you. The hell with that. That's evil and that's wrong.
Well, a few things. First, he didn't give the ultimate sacrifice. He lived. No one made him a volunteer, but I do agree with you, right? I mean, we're all familiar with tales of the French Foreign Legion, that people would go and fight for France and live in these harsh conditions, and after they finished their tour of duty, they were rewarded for their service with citizenship, and that absolutely makes sense, right? I think that if someone is going to put on an American military uniform and successfully serve and get an honorable discharge, that honorable discharge should come with a citizenship. I would disagree with the notion that he served in Iraq a couple of decades ago, that it in any way protected America's interest, because I don't think we should have ever been in that damn war.
But wait a minute, though.
But hold on,
do we say the same thing about those who served in Afghanistan?
Oh,
because we should not have been there.
Okay, all right.
Osama bin Laden was in Pakistan.
But this isn't a criticism.
What about Iraq?
This isn't a criticism.
We should have been there either.
This isn't a criticism of anyone that served. It's a criticism of our government's decision to send American troops to put their boots in the sand and die over there, or get injured, or whatever.
But that's the American way, though.
I mean, we shouldn't be doing that.
But America's been doing that for hundreds of years. America's done that.
We know you hate America, right?
I don't hate America. I hate practices within this country that are wicked, inhumane, evil, unconstitutional, and racist.
Okay.
America allowed black people to fight in the Civil War, some on side of the North, some on side of the South. And after that war, many of us were still kept on plantations and kept in slavery. We fought in the War of Independence, black people. Crispus Attucks, the first black man to die in the Independence War, black men, Crispus Attucks. After America won her independence, slaves were maintained and slavery maintained in this country. Oh, guess what? We went to Vietnam and we fought in Vietnam, only to still come back to a segregated America and couldn't got the same water fountain as a white person. America's been doing this to black people for generations and hundreds of years. Okay. We fight in wars and never get real citizenship.
Wonderful speech. Can we get back to Marlon?
Some heavy facts.
Can we get back to Marlon? No, you just say
I hit you over your head with facts.
I don't hate it. You say I don't hate America, but America sucks. But I got it.
I
understand.
hate the evil things that we do.
Okay, but let's get back to Marlon Paris, right? At the end of Marlon Paris only had a green card. He was a resident. We can agree that he should have been given citizenship after his service, but he was not. As a resident, right, he was involved in drugs to the point where he went to prison, typically from a former criminal defense attorney, former police officer and judge. If you're going to prison, either you're put on some sort of deferred and screwed it up, or you're involved in the narcotics trafficking trade. They're being very vague on this, would suggest to me that there's probably a likelihood that this was more than just a usable amount, that he was somehow involved in trafficking and he went to prison, right? Do I think that people should be going to prison for drugs? Absolutely not. Unless they're narco-terrorists, unless they're selling fentanyl or something, I don't think prison should be an option.
So you believe that the CEOs of pharmaceutical companies should go to prison?
See, you're changing.
They're drug dealers.
Illegal narcotics.
They sell codeine.
Right. Hold on.
Okay, but wait a minute. What's the difference? What is the difference between an illegal narcotic and a legal one?
Well, one's
narcotic.
One's legal and one's illegal.
No, one is being taxed by the American government, and the American government is making money from the taxation. The other one is not. But they both still are narcotic.
Even legal ones can become illegal if they're being sold and not prescribed, and they're being sold in a manner that doesn't involve a doctor.
And you pay taxes.
Right. Look, I think
it's a hustle.
I think all drugs.
So the CEOs of Pfizer, they're drug dealers too.
I think if we legalized all recreational drugs, it would allow them to be far safer and far better and be more appropriately taxed and sort of.
Like what drugs?
I think cocaine, heroin, whatever. But that's
you
not
out your gut.
But
you just sit here and say legalize cocaine.
Oh, absolutely.
Man, I ought to get up here and take off my belt.
We have so many young black children dying from fentanyl exposure that would not happen. But more importantly, Marlon Paris, he committed a felony. If you're a non-citizen, you commit a felony, you get deported. Do I think they should make an exception here because of his service?
And so
yes.
I want to say,
don't commit felonies if you're not a citizen, period.
To all the Indians, find all the white folks who committed felonies against y'all, tell them it's time to go.
Oh, Whitey's bad.
Tell them it's time to go.
Whitey's so bad.
Deport them too.
That's it for the Face Off on Fox Soul. We'll catch you next time.